the rifle they sent to impress. America's silent challenge in March 1943, the Second World War had reached a brutal turning point. Across the Eastern Front, the Soviet Union was locked in a fight for survival. Millions of soldiers were dead. Entire cities lay in ruins. Winter itself had become a weapon, freezing engines, cracking steel, and killing men faster than bullets. At the same time, thousands of kilometers away, the United States was emerging as the world's greatest industrial power. American factories were producing weapons at a scale never seen before in human history. Tanks, aircraft, trucks, ammunition, and rifles. Through the Lend-Lease program, the United States supplied its allies with enormous quantities of war material. Britain received ships and aircraft. The Soviet Union received food, vehicles, raw materials, and weapons. But in early 1943, one delivery stood apart from all the others. It was not a shipment. It was a statement. A single rifle. A weapon meant to send a message. The rifle was the M1 Garand, the standard-issue infantry weapon of the United States Army. Unlike most rifles of the era, it was semi-automatic. Every time an American soldier pulled the trigger, the rifle fired and automatically chambered the next round. No bolt to cycle manually. No pause between shots. 8 rounds, fired as fast as the soldier could aim. To American planners, the Garand represented more than a firearm. It was proof of a philosophy: technology wins wars. Firepower saves lives. Industry decides outcomes. By sending a single M1 Garand to the Soviet Union, the United States was not trying to rearm the Red Army. They were trying to impress it. Quietly, confidently, the Americans were saying, "This is the future of infantry warfare." First impressions in Moscow when the rifle arrived, Soviet engineers and weapons experts examined it carefully. And then, they laughed. To them, the M1 Garand looked wrong. It was heavy, 4.3 kilograms, significantly more than a standard Mosin-Nagant rifle carried by Soviet infantry. It was complex, over 50 moving parts, precision machined, tightly fitted, and reliant on careful assembly. Worst of all, it used a strange feeding system, an en-bloc clip that ejected with a sharp metallic ping when empty. To Soviet minds, this was madness. On the Eastern Front, rifles were dropped in mud, snow, blood, and ice. Soldiers fired with gloves on. Weapons were cleaned with rags, engine oil, or sometimes nothing at all. Simplicity was survival. The Mosin-Nagant was crude, but it worked. The SVT-40 was semi-automatic, but already considered fragile. The Garand seemed like a luxury weapon, built for firing ranges and parades, not frozen trenches outside Stalingrad. American engineers, the Soviets believed, had designed a rifle for comfort, not war. Doctrine shapes designed this reaction was not arrogance, it was doctrine. Soviet military thinking had been shaped by catastrophe. They expected massive casualties. They expected equipment losses on an industrial scale. They expected weapons to be used until they broke and then replaced. A rifle, in Soviet doctrine, had to meet brutal requirements. Minimal training, loose tolerances, extreme reliability, low-cost, easy mass production. The M1 Garand violated nearly all of these principles. It was precise. It was refined. It was expensive. At first glance, it had no place in a Red Army fighting for its life. But doctrine does not stop physics, and metal does not care about opinions. The tests begin despite their skepticism. Soviet engineers did what they always did. They tested it. The M1 Garand was subjected to firing trials, endurance trials, and environmental tests. It was exposed to dust, mud, ice, and extreme cold. Temperatures dropped to -20 degrees Celsius and below. Lubricants froze. Springs stiffened. Steel contracted. This was where many weapons failed. Some Soviet rifles struggled. Some jammed. Some lost reliability. The American rifle did not. Round after round, the Garand continued to cycle. Its long-stroke gas system, powered by combustion gases tapped from the barrel, proved remarkably tolerant of dirt and cold. Its rotating bolt locked solidly under pressure, then unlocked smoothly after firing. It was not elegant. It was relentless. The engineers stopped laughing. Firepower changes everything as the tests continued. Another reality became impossible to ignore. Firepower. A Soviet infantryman armed with a Mosin-Nagant could fire perhaps 10 to 15 aimed rounds per minute. An American soldier with an M1 Garand could fire 3 times that without sacrificing accuracy. In close combat, forests, ruins, trenches, the advantage was overwhelming. For the first time, Soviet analysts confronted a disturbing truth. The American rifle gave individual soldiers a level of firepower previously reserved for entire squads. This was not a marginal improvement. It was a doctrinal revolution. Why the Soviets still rejected it, and yet, despite its performance, the M1 Garand was never adopted by the Red Army. The reasons were practical, not technical. The rifle was too expensive to mass-produce under wartime conditions. Its tight tolerances demanded higher quality steel and machining. Its en-bloc clip system was incompatible with Soviet logistics. Training millions of soldiers to maintain it would take time they did not have. The war demanded quantity over quality. The Garand was admired, but it was not copied, at least not officially. A young man takes notes. Among those who studied the rifle was a young Soviet soldier recovering from battlefield wounds. His name was Mikhail Kalashnikov. He was not a general. He was not an engineer by training. He was a tank commander who had been injured in combat. During his recovery, Kalashnikov became obsessed with weapons. Why did some fail? Why did others survive mud, sand, and neglect? Why did certain designs forgive human error, while others punished it? When the technical evaluation of the M1 Garand was compiled, a 47-page report detailing its mechanics, gas system, and bolt design, Kalashnikov read it carefully, not with admiration, with curiosity. Seeds planted in steel. Kalashnikov did not want to copy the Garand. He wanted to understand it. He studied the long-stroke gas piston, noting its ability to deliver consistent force even under adverse conditions. He analyzed the rotating bolt with 2 locking lugs, appreciating its strength and simplicity. But he also saw its weaknesses: tight tolerances, precision requirements, manufacturing complexity. Kalashnikov began to imagine something different. A weapon that used the same mechanical principles, but stripped of all unnecessary refinement. A rifle built not for engineers, but for soldiers. The quiet beginning of an irony in 1943. No one in that room could have imagined what would follow. The Americans believed they had demonstrated superiority. The Soviets believed they had rejected an unsuitable weapon. Both were wrong, because the true impact of the M1 Garand was not immediate. It did not arm the Red Army. It did not change the Eastern Front. Instead, it planted an idea that would mature in the ruins of post-war Europe, an idea that would reshape global warfare, an idea that would become a rifle known on every continent. The irony had already begun. The rifle that refused to disappear, legacy, myth, and unintended consequences. By the late stages of the Cold War, the AK-47 was no longer just a weapon. It was everywhere, in jungles and deserts, in frozen mountains and shattered cities, in the hands of soldiers, rebels, militias, and children. The rifle born from post-war Soviet fear, shaped indirectly by an American design meant to impress, had escaped the control of all nations. It had become immortal, from tool to icon. Most weapons remained tools. The AK-47 became an icon. Its silhouette was instantly recognizable: the curved magazine, the angled gas tube, the simple iron sights. Even people who had never fired a rifle could identify it. It appeared on flags, currency, propaganda posters, graffiti, revolutionary murals. Most famously, it was placed on the national flag of Mozambique, the only modern flag to feature a rifle. The AK-47 no longer represented just combat. It represented power. Why the AK would not die? The world moved on technologically. Assault rifles became lighter. Optics improved. Materials advanced. Yet the AK remained. The reason was brutally simple. It worked in failed states with no logistics, in conflicts with no supply chains, in armies with minimal training. The AK-47 demanded almost nothing from its user. Bad ammunition. It fired. Poor maintenance. It fired. Extreme heat or cold. It fired. Other rifles could outperform it. Few could outlast it. The rifle of the weak and the strong. Western analysts often described the AK as the rifle of the poor. They were correct and dangerously incomplete. The AK was cheap, yes, but it was also strategically powerful. By flooding allies with AKs, the Soviet Union, and later Russia, China, and others, could influence conflicts without deploying troops. One shipment of rifles could change a war. The AK did not need instructors, spare parts, or advanced infrastructure. It carried its own doctrine, the American reflection. Over time, the United States came to an uncomfortable realization. The AK-47 represented everything American weapons philosophy had once rejected and everything it eventually had to relearn. Reliability mattered as much as accuracy. Simplicity mattered as much as innovation. Doctrine mattered as much as engineering. American small arms evolved. The M16 matured. The M4 was refined. Training improved. But the shadow of the AK remained. Even today, American soldiers trained specifically to fight against it. The myth versus the machine. The AK-47 became wrapped in mythology. Some claimed it was indestructible. Others claimed it was inaccurate and crude. The truth lay between. The AK was not magical. It could jam. It could wear out. But its genius was statistical. Across millions of rifles, in millions of hands, under millions of conditions, it worked often enough to dominate history. That was its real strength. Kalashnikov's burden. Mikhail Kalashnikov lived long enough to witness the full arc of his creation. He was celebrated as a hero in Russia, decorated, honored, but privately he struggled. In his later years, Kalashnikov questioned his legacy. He did not regret designing a weapon for his country, but he regretted how widely it was used beyond it. "I wanted to defend my homeland," he once said. "I did not want criminals to have this weapon." But invention does not obey intention. The irony revisited. History is rarely fair. The United States sent one rifle to impress an ally. The Soviets laughed and learned. A wounded soldier studied its principles. From that moment forward, the outcome was sealed. The AK-47 was not a copy of the M1 Garand. But without the Garand, it might not exist in the same form. The irony is not that America helped create its enemy's weapon. The irony is that it did so unintentionally, through confidence. Technology has no loyalty. Weapons do not belong to nations. Ideas do not respect borders. Every great military innovation is studied, copied, adapted, and improved by rivals. The M1 Garand influenced the AK. The AK influenced Western doctrine. The cycle never ends. In war, superiority is temporary. Adaptation is permanent. A rifle that shaped the modern world. It is impossible to count how many conflicts the AK-47 has touched. It armed insurgencies. It upheld regimes. It prolonged wars. It became part of the visual language of conflict itself. When people imagine war, they imagine the AK. That alone defines its legacy. The final lesson. The story of the AK-47 is not just about a rifle. It is about arrogance and humility, about learning from enemies, about unintended consequences. It is about how a single decision, sending one rifle in 1943, can echo across generations. History does not reward intention. It rewards results. Closing the circle. The Soviets laughed. The Americans believed. The world adapted. And one rifle refused to disappear.